also through all the papers.
All right, we're going to call to order tonight's September 4th, 2025 Corcoran Planning Commission meeting. And we're going to begin with roll call. Commissioner Zachman.
Here.
Commissioner Lind.
Here.
Commissioner Hargreaves.
Here.
Commissioner Kazaki.
Here.
And Commissioner Brumand is here. And I'd like to invite those who would like to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to ask staff and my fellow commissioners if anybody has any amendments that they'd like to make to tonight's agenda.
Staff has no changes, Madam Chair.
Okay. And I just want to double check with our council liaison. Did you want to maintain the order for tonight, or would you prefer to give a council report prior to our new business item? Councilman Barenkamp. Are you okay if we do our new business item first?
Well, yeah, I'm here
Perfect.
the whole night.
Okay.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yep. And if that's the case, then I will make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? All right. We're going to move on to our open forum. So this is an opportunity for members of the public to address the commission on any items not on tonight's agenda. It would just be an opportunity to bring something to our attention that's weighing on you or you'd like to be discussed or dealt with at a future time. It wouldn't be an opportunity to debate, but just to bring something to attention. So separate from the new business item tonight, this would be anything other than that new business. Is anyone here to bring something up during open forum? And for those who are joining online, there's no one here to speak at open forum, so we're going to move on to the minutes from the August Planning Commission meeting. Is there any, it was a training session, so I did double check and make sure that the right number of council members are here listed on the minutes. But other than that, does anyone have any notes that need to be amended, or would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve them. I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, and then that brings us to our new business on the agenda tonight. And there is one item, and that is the M&J Creekside Vineyard Site Plan Interim Use Permit and Zoning Ordinance Amendment. And we are going to begin with a staff report.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. So the only item under the new business tonight is the M&J Creekside Vineyard. This is a request from Margaret and John Fernandez, who are requesting approval of an interim use permit and site plan to allow the operation of a wine tasting / processing business in the rural residential district, as well as an amendment to the agribusiness ordinance to allow flexibility from the accessory structure limitations for agribusiness uses. The typical hours operation provided in the applicant's narrative is on Thursdays through Saturdays, 12 p.m. to 9 p.m., and on Sundays, 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. from early spring to late fall. The subject property is 23020 County Road 30. This is a 5.84 acre parcel. The property itself, as well as the surrounding area, is currently zoned rural residential and is guided rural / ag residential in the 2040 future land use map. The surrounding uses to the north and east are currently residential uses. The property to the south is residential and agricultural use. And then the property to the west is a densely wooded parcel with Rush Creek flowing through it, which is owned by the applicants themselves. The property, again, is in close proximity to Rush Creek, which creates some shoreline overlay regulations on the parcel itself. And then again, there's a mature tree coverage over the northeast and south side, or northwest and south sides of the parcel. And then the property is located outside of the MUSA, so it's currently served by a private septic and well system. So tonight there's three aspects being considered: a site plan for the actual consistency with the zoning ordinance, an interim use permit for the agribusiness use itself, since agribusinesses are identified as an interim use in the rural residential district. Interim uses are allowed uses within the district that contain additional conditions to mitigate potential impacts to the surrounding uses. And then a zoning ordinance amendment to provide flexibility from that accessory structure footprint limitation, specifically for agribusiness uses. So going into the site plan analysis, I apologize that the text here is kind of small. The building, the property itself consists of a number of accessory buildings, and the site plan submitted by the applicant indicates that they would demolish an existing 726 square foot garage in favor of a 1,440 square foot pole barn. This would result in a cumulative accessory structure footprint of 3,980 square feet, with this parcel being 5.84 acres. City code does allow for a maximum accessory structure footprint of 2,719 square feet. So this proposal would exceed that allowance. The applicant does have the option to combine the two parcels that they own together, and that would increase the allowed accessory structure footprint to 3,313 square feet. So it still wouldn't meet that requirement, but that is an option that they could consider. So since this doesn't comply with the ordinance standards, staff recommends a condition of approval that the site plan be updated to remove any excess accessory structure footprint area unless their requested zoning ordinance amendment is approved. The building setbacks for the accessory structures are required to meet the minimum requirements outlined within the zoning ordinance itself. I created or labeled their site plan with different names to make it easier to identify, and I realize now that it's on the screen, it's harder to tell, so I can use my laser pointer. Shed 1, this one in the southeastern corner of the site, is located within the minimum front yard setback area and is non-compliant with the setback requirements, so a condition of, well, I'll touch on the conditions of approval at the end. Shed 2 is located within the minimum setback area from Rush Creek. This shed, looking through historical aerial imagery, appears to have been constructed prior to the establishment of these requirements, so it's considered a legal non-conforming structure. Shed 3 is located within the minimum side yard setback as well as the minimum setback from Rush Creek as well. And this one also was constructed prior to the establishment of these requirements and is considered a legal non-conforming structure. Shed 4 is located within the minimum setback area from the side and rear property line. This one was placed after the current setback requirements were established and is considered a non-compliant structure. So 3 of the structures in their current standing are considered non-compliant. So staff recommends a condition of approval for this application be that sheds 1 and 2 be relocated to meet the minimum setback requirements of the zoning ordinance or be removed from the property entirely. And then the existing pole barn is within the minimum setback area from Rush Creek, so we recommend that that structure either be relocated to meet that minimum setback requirement, removed from the property, or obtain an after-the-fact variance for that setback. The building height for structures within the shoreline overlay district are limited to a maximum height of 25 feet. The proposed structure height is 20 feet and has proposed sidewall heights of 10 feet. Both of these comply with the district height requirements for accessory structures. The building materials consist of a colored steel and wainscoting along a couple of the elevations. And so code does allow for metal siding through a certificate of compliance, which is administrative review, and staff has reviewed that and has found that it does comply with our requirements. And then with this structure being located within the Shoreline Overlay District, it is required to be constructed so that the lowest floor elevation is at least 2 feet above the regional flood elevation. So for this region, zone AE, the regional flood elevation is 973 feet, and the first floor elevation for this structure is 976.3 feet, so it complies with that standard as well. Parking for the proposed use must be accommodated so that it can, it must be provided so that it can accommodate the site's most intensive use and cannot rely on on-street parking on any of the surrounding streets. So based on the applicant's narrative, staff finds that event hosting would be the most intensive use on the site. So looking at the standards for event centers, for parking at least, those are required to have 1 stall per 2 guests. So the applicant's proposed site plan is 40 parking stalls, so a recommended condition of approval would limit the guest count for all events to 80 occupants. Additionally, the parking lot that is on the applicant's site plan is showing to be constructed of a material that is identified as a grass-filled geogrid. This type of material is not an approved parking surface within the city code, so a condition of approval would require that that site plan be revised to provide a compliant parking surface as either a defined gravel parking area or a hard surface with perimeter concrete curving. The driveway was reviewed by the planning staff, the engineering staff, and public safety. Currently, they're planning to, or proposing to have a 16-foot wide driveway, but there are some concerns with having two-way access, or two-way traffic coming through that driveway at that width, as well as providing enough space for emergency vehicles to access the site. So a condition of approval would be that the driveway be widened to at least 24 feet to accommodate those concerns. The site is required to meet the landscape standards of the zoning ordinance. That would be 1 overstory tree per 1,000 square feet of building area and 1 shrub per 300 square feet of building area. Historically, the city has calculated these requirements based on the new building area. So within this application, that would result in 2 overstory trees and 5 shrubs. Additionally, parking areas of 4 stalls or more are required to have screening of at least 3 feet to screen vehicle headlights from surrounding residential properties and public right-of-way. The applicants are requesting that the city accept their existing vegetation for this requirement and provided the landscaping exhibit shown on the screen now. And staff finds that a condition of approval for the landscaping requirements be that some additional screening be provided along the south and east parking lot where there seems to be some gaps in screening to prevent vehicle headlights from shining onto adjacent properties. One of the standards for agribusinesses is that outdoor lighting cannot exceed a glare of 0.1 foot candle at the property line. The applicants did provide a narrative explaining the lighting needs of the business, and I apologize, there seems to be a cutoff in my text here, but that is explained in the narrative that's printed out at the diocese here today, and maybe the applicants can speak more to what that lighting entails. But with that, a condition of approval would be that the applicants provide a photometric plan showing the location of these lights and the glare that would be generated by it, so that we can ensure compliance with this ordinance standard. The applicants also plan to post a 3 foot by 3 foot sign above the entrance of the new structure. Currently, Signs aren't allowed within the rural residential district. However, staff has added an amendment to the agribusiness standards at the end of this report that would allow signs within the rural residential district, and I can touch on that later on in this report. So going into the interim use permit analysis, agribusinesses, since they're interim uses, they are required to meet the standards of the interim use permit, as well as specific performance standards that were identified when we adopted the agribusiness ordinance. And so staff has a full detailed analysis within the report, but staff finds that the agribusiness standards are satisfied or could be satisfied with the proposed application and the following conditions. The parking lot would need to be revised to include a material that can be accepted within the city codes, the gravel or the pavement. Additionally, capping that capacity to 80 patrons to the site, so that way there's not overflow parking on the grass or in the street. In the event that the requested zoning ordinance is denied, the applicant would be required to remove any area of accessory structure space that exceeds the allowed footprint for the size of their property. If they end up using, currently their plan shows that they're using an indoor bathroom facility, but in the event that there's a need for outdoor bathroom facilities, those would be required to be screened and located at least 400 feet from neighboring residential structures pursuant to that standard that was adopted with the agribusiness ordinance. And then same thing with the outdoor activities. If there are some outdoor activities, the site plan itself needs to be revised to show where these are located and be set back at least 100 feet from neighboring residential structures. Going into the ordinance amendment, the applicants are requesting that the ordinance be amended so that there is flexibility for agribusinesses to exceed what's allowed by code for a parcel of their size. Currently, the agribusiness ordinance refers to the maximum accessory structure footprint in just the general standards of the zoning ordinance. So under this guidance, parcels that are 10 acres or larger would have the option to exceed the limit for the size of their property through a conditional use permit, whereas agribusinesses on parcels that are between 4 and 9.9 acres would be limited strictly to the accessory structure footprint that's identified within the general standards of the zoning ordinance. So the applicant has requested that be amended and has detailed the needs of an additional accessory structure space for the functionality of their agribusiness themselves. So staff has the following proposed amendment. So below point 5, there's a point A is City Council may grant flexibility as part of the interim use permit to exceed the maximum allowed accessory structure footprint for properties that are between 4 and less than 10 acres in size, provided that the additional accessory structure space is reasonably necessary for the agribusiness to operate effectively. This is an attempt to make sure that it is suitable for their use and not a workaround for potential properties to use it as just extra storage space. And then, like I said about the signs earlier, the applicants are planning to post a 3x3 foot sign, that's a typo, above the entrance of the proposed structure. Typically, again, signs aren't permitted in the rural residential district, however, they are allowed in other residential districts. So to address this, staff proposes that the amendment for the agribusiness be added that signs up to 32 square feet be approved in conjunction to the agribusiness operation, subject to the residential sign standards outlined in Chapter 84, just to have that consistency with other residential districts. So at this point, staff recommends that the Planning Commission open the public hearing and take testimony, and then staff recommends that you recommend approval of the draft resolution for the site plan and interim use permit with the conditions that were mentioned throughout this presentation, the draft ordinance amending the ordinance for the agribusiness, and then the draft resolution approving the findings of fact for that ordinance.
Thank you, Dwight. Okay, at this point in time, we are going to open the public hearing regarding the M&J Creekside Vineyard site plan. What we will do, public comments are going to be limited to in-person comments, and we're going to begin with the speakers who filled out a card prior to the start of the meeting. So Natalie or Dwight will call them to the podium one at a time. When your name is called, if you could come up to the podium and state your name and address, that's just for the record and meeting minutes. And then go ahead and we're going to, just for the sake of time, just kind of general rule of thumb, keep it to about 5 minutes. And if someone shares what you had the indication that you were going to also comment on, you are welcome to indicate that you agree with or you also share in the sentiment, and then give your new ideas or concerns as well.
Madam Chair, a question, are we gonna have the applicant speak?
After the
Okay,
public
thank
hearing
you.
is completed, yep.
Got it.
Madam Chair, so as far as public speaker or public comments, I did just want to point out on the dais, there was a public comment letter by Jeff and Denise Lopes that should be considered as part of the official.
Did everybody up here, all the commissioners, get the opportunity to read through the letter? Okay, perfect. And then there was also one contained in our packet as well. So if those folks, you just be reassured, we did receive the letter that came before tonight's meeting as well.
And then first up, we have Diana Birch.
I forgot to mention, I'm just gonna say while you're walking, if you have questions, feel free to say them, but we don't engage in a back and forth during the public comment opportunity, but we will take your notes or questions and make sure that we address them if possible, as soon as the public meeting portion is finished.
I'm Diana Birch, I live 9800 West Boulevard. When I got the letter, I was kind of surprised because we are rural, we are residential, we are not commercial. Nowhere in our ordinances that have that area as a commercial. And we're seeing more and more commercial trying to come in, which is concerning. And my concern is we are septic, we are well, we are wetlands. That is a big concern for the quality of life, the quality of the water, maintaining a safe environment. So that's been my biggest concern with this project. I think wine, I like wine, I like, that part. I don't have a problem with the winery. I have a problem with turning it into a business where you're gonna be processing. What happens to the waste? How much water is getting used? That all affects my neighbors, it affects me, it affects, there's too many things. And so that's my concern, is turning it, having a business in our neighborhood. We are a neighborhood, we are not a business. We're not a commercial area. And that's what people have to realize when we get that area of Corcoran. And so that's my comments.
Thank you so much.
And next is Kevin Dale. Or is it Dave or Dale?
Yeah.
Dale, okay.
Kevin Dale, 9820 Creekview Circle. My property, whole back of my property is connected to theirs. And if on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I want to go out in my patio and have a quiet evening, I'm going to have 80 people, I don't know what it is, 300 feet away, having a good time. And it's just supposed to be a winery, but or an event center. But I haven't been to an event center that didn't get loud and didn't have a lot of lights. And like Diana said, this is a residential neighborhood. We like it peace. We like quiet. It just doesn't seem to fit. The making wine over there isn't such a bad deal. And a small tasting room, not a bad deal. But an event center in this residential neighborhood just doesn't make sense to me at all. And it seems like your guys are, I mean, he's talked about changing this, changing that, changing all kinds of stuff. to make this acceptable to the city. Well, if you're gonna make that many exceptions, hell, you might as well put a massive construction company right next door to me. It just doesn't make sense. I guess that's really all I gotta say, and I just hope that this is turned down. The event center part of it, winery and growing the grapes and stuff, I think that's real cool, but not the event center. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do not have any more cards.
Okay, so those were all the comment cards filled out. I do want to give, I know a couple people trickled in towards the end, so we will give you the opportunity, if there's anyone else who wants to come up to the podium. Feel free, sir, and then just state your name and address for the record as well, please.
My name is David Baffke.
Oh, just wait till you get to the mic, sorry. That way we can hear you. Thank you so much.
Again, it seems like we're doing this once a year now. David Baffke, 9733 Rush Creek Boulevard, right adjacent to John's place. I'm not in favor of this now. I'm weary of all the amendments that have to be made. I'm concerned about putting up fences for lights. I mean, my property's right adjacent, and all the other things that I've been hearing about to make this happen. And I know, and parking, I'm just not for this. I agree with what my neighbor said here, and I've talked to other neighbors on the boulevard too, and they're Ron Burkowski. They've given me permission to say they're totally not for this, and so there you have it. It's kind of like Kevin said, we're making changes to accommodate a commercial area, but again, like I said a year ago when we were in here, we've got years here of living in this area, and we want to kind of keep it rural and just retire in our peace. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Becky. Is there anyone else? I don't want to pass over, so giving you the opportunity. And at this point in time, then there's no one else who's indicating that they would like to come and raise or make their comments. So I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Oh, second.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Okay, so at this point in time, we would like to invite the applicants who are here with us tonight to come up to the podium and address the commission, and then we'll move forward with the discussion after that.
Sounds good. I'm Margaret Fernandez.
I'm John Fernandez.
We live at 23020 County Road 30. We are here and appreciate all of our neighbors coming and expressing their concern. We do agree with them. We are not trying to create an area where there's this big event center. We actually are just trying to create a real space for people to come and be able to buy wine and enjoy a farm. The idea is not at all to have lighting and loud noises and all that kind of stuff. There are a number of, what do you call it, along the nurseries along the way, or like an apple orchard. That's really what we're talking about doing, not about taking away your enjoyment. And quite frankly, I actually feel like County Road 30 takes away the enjoyment of all of us around. So we're not looking to do anything commercial. This is just a small farm operation where we are able to sell our product on our own land. We live there. I don't want to have big parties at night either. I agree 100%. So, we're here to answer any questions. In terms of processing and the environment and all that type of thing, we agree 100% with that as well. We are worried about the land. That's why we bought the land. We wanted to use it in a manner so that people could still enjoy it instead of big developers. As you guys know, you can check out Corcoran, Maple Grove. It's all coming in. We're not looking to change the septic system or anything like that. And actually, processing grapes is a lot less caustic to the area than a lot of the farms that have their runoff going into the creek there. So we have to address that. We have to get approval through the city, state, we have to get, not national,
To the feds.
from the feds. It's a very restricted business. And we've had many conversations with the city and with a number of different consultants to ensure that we're complying with the wetland overlay and those types of things. Hence, all of the changes and conversations about the land. There is, so, I don't know, anything else you want to say about their comments?
Well, just to address I get that we're trying to change the amendment to the city, but it's agribusiness. And that's what every farm is in the area. It's a business. Every one of those are producing a product and selling that product. We just happen to want to sell our product off of our land because it is such a restricted business. This is one way the state has developed a plan to make it accessible and economically feasible for a small winery to be able to produce.
Yeah, I mean, we do, I'm just as upset with construction, it's not construction, what's it called?
The excavation.
Excavation sites. I don't want a whole bunch of excavation businesses all around us. We're trying to keep the nature and the creek and that whole vibe there. We are completely surrounded with trees. There will be no lights in anybody's yards, no cars or anything like that. We're just trying to comply with the guidance that we have to have parking spaces. And I have talked to the city many times about, come on out, can we do a video? What do we need to do? What kind of screening do we have? And we're pretty insulated right there. So we are just as concerned as you are as keeping the, what would you call it, agricultural vibe in the area. I like being on propane and septic, and we're not looking to change that. Well, there are a couple things though that we wanted to address just from some of the
Application.
the application, yes. So in the report, we reviewed it today, and there are just some things that are, I think, confusion or misconception, or we are definitely adding both parcels together, and we've talked about that. Through the guidance of the city, we haven't done that yet. We were told to go through this process. As you know, it's been very, our financial outlay on this has been significant. So that's one thing that we were waiting to do, to try and get the full acreage there. We have to also talk to the city about the pole building. I don't know if you want to bring that up again, but we were originally just going to add on to the pole building, the existing pole building, and turn that into a tasting room and not build another building where the proposed site is. And when we did that, we realized that the people that lived there before us had built it. The city signed off on it, and it was approved, it was built, but now we're finding that they had built it in the wrong spot. So the agreement with the city at the time was, they told us we could keep that pole building, because it's a beautiful building. I mean, it's brand new. We could keep that building if we could move our proposed site to a different location. So we did that based on the recommendation from our site plan meeting last year. Anything else you want to talk to on that? Also, in terms of getting approval for additional square footage, there are a number, like shed 1 is a plastic shed that was put there long before us. We don't care about that. The shed in the way back, that is, it actually was a horse shelter that we turned into a chicken coop. So we don't care about getting rid of that. So there's a number of square footage that we're okay with removing at this point in time. But I am kind of disappointed that the proposal is for us to relocate the pole building. That would be very difficult and labor intensive. So I'm not, that was not supposed to be part of this based on past conversations that we had with the city and city council, actually. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about? The driveway? There also, the driveway is now proposed for 24 feet. I don't know that that matters that much, but there's a lot of other businesses out there that you can get an emergency vehicle in with a smaller span. We're fine with that, but if you look at the 24 feet, if that's something we have to go with, at the very end where the parking lot opens up, there are two beautiful linden trees that is kind of like you're coming into this beautiful area with a wine tasting room and the grapes, and we would like to keep those. Those are 16 feet apart. So that's the only spot where we would like to still keep at least the 16 feet, is so that we can retain the trees and the beauty of the area. And I think that is it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And I know that as the commission discussion proceeds, we may have a question or two, and then we would give you the opportunity to answer as
Okay.
well. So thank you so much. And at this point in time, I guess the two things that before we start discussion, with regard to the amenableness to the removal of more sheds, does that change anything regarding what needs, the decisions that need to be made tonight? And then also with the history, and I do recall that
Yeah.
having been mentioned, the building, the existing pole building having not been constructed under their ownership, does that, do those two things before we begin our discussion, is there anything that staff wants to?
I just want to add that when we do an analysis under an IUP or an interim use permit or a conditional use permit, part of the qualifications is that the site overall conforms with all the zoning district standards. So the reason why we had to call those out and
Gotcha.
propose a solution that would bring them into compliance, such as relocation or
Yep.
removal, is because otherwise they don't fit that standard that the site overall complies. And so there were a couple buildings that don't basically meet the qualification as a legal non-conforming structure. So where they do have a couple of legal non-conforming structures where we didn't recommend removal or relocation. The alternative to that is a variance. So it would be an after-the-fact variance. And so we could adjust the resolution to add that third option and have it go back through the variance process. But we can't just waive it or ignore it.
Sure. What does the resident's responsibility in regards to that variance look like, if that is an option, in terms of cost?
Yep, so they'd have to pay the variance fee. There's a escrow, but they already have an escrow account, so we would just look at the health of the escrow account. There might need to be need to re-up it. I don't know. They'd have to look at that.
Okay.
And then they have to provide a narrative explaining the practical difficulty as to why the site won't allow them
Sure.
to move the buildings, essentially.
And then it requires another opportunity to come before the commission and the council, so
Yeah.
time is also
Yeah.
what's impacted, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Those were the things that I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to address. Did you feel like there was anything else you needed to speak to regarding questions?
No,
Okay.
happy to answer any questions that the commission have. I know that the driveway width was also something that was brought up.
Yep.
If there's
A solution?
other solutions, I don't know if I could come up with a solution on the fly, but I do know that that was a concern that was brought up by engineering and public safety, so I would have to defer to them on what the minimum width requirements would be.
And then
Okay.
just to clarify, it was to accommodate two-way traffic, not just emergency vehicles.
Sure, yes.
May
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yep.
Of what staff said? So maybe I'm not following. Why was a variance not recommended?
We are responding to the application that was submitted. I believe the
Okay.
concept plan did call out different options, and so,
Okay.
and then at some point, I think there may have been discussion of some buildings being removed, but I don't think that's on the table at this point. So I think that, yeah, at this point, we're just responding to it. And also, I think from staff's perspective, I wouldn't recommend a variance. The practical difficulty is simply that they are moving the building. So that they don't want to move the building. There is a way for them to comply with code, but there's not a constraint of the lot as to why that building must remain in that location. So that would be, I wouldn't recommend a variance, but that would
Okay.
be an option.
Okay, thank you.
practical difficulty of moving an entire building, having to have another pad made, that seems to be
So
a
it
huge
can't-
expense.
It can't, the practical difficulty can't be based on money.
But the fact that it was placed by someone else, and in theory,
Approved by
the city,
The city does
Did
not
not
have a
approve the
surveyor on
location,
staff.
right,
The
it's
city
not an
approved the
inspection.
location that met setbacks, and a building official who would have said the building's okay to be a building is not gonna be a surveyor to confirm
Right.
setbacks.
okay, that's an interesting one. Before we begin discussion, I feel like I would like to just address the concerns regarding amendments. So the agribusiness ordinance is brand new to the city, meaning we wanted to find a way to allow it and capture it and put some performance standards on it. So that's why the language was created, so that there's sort of more of a partnership between agribusinesses and the city, rather than them just happening without. So some of the, this is the first trial run under that new section of code, which is why there's a little bit of like, how does this work? What language might need to be in there that wasn't in originally? And that is not an uncommon thing. When you create language for something, you try your best to capture all of the possibilities, and then when you get an application in front of you, it sometimes reveals where you weren't as thorough as you wanted to be. So I just wanted to address that is some of the reason for the amendment language to the ordinance. At this point in time, though, I'd like to open it up to the commission for discussion. I know based on, we're supposed to kind of see where everybody sits, but I feel like my gut says there's some things we need to discuss before anybody is ready to make a recommendation for approval or denial. And so, does anyone want to go first with some of their questions or their comments, and then we'll just see where we're at and what we need to tackle.
I feel like I've done all the talking, but let's keep it going. I love the agribusiness concept, because I think many of us are in the position of wanting to keep Corcoran rural. We also need to encourage people that love the rural lifestyle and want to foster that. So we got to figure this out. These are good, healthy, I think, tensions. So I agree with it sounds like we're all on the same page that this is not meant to be an event venue. So my question is that the parking lot is designed to hold up to 80 people. Have we explored like making that like an event not possible to be held? Like up to, can we make it smaller and thus the parking lot doesn't need to be as big? Or is there any flexibility that we can explore there? I just think my biggest concern is, how do we alleviate the concern on the size of amount of people, the traffic concerns? I can understand that 80 cars in a parking lot in a residence does seem big to me. It seems
40.
like that's...
It'd be 40.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
80 people, assuming that there's 2 people in each
Okay,
vehicle.
even so,
Right.
40 cars that's a lot. So I can see that concern, and I'm wondering if, and maybe up for discussion, is like how we handle the term event and hosting events and the parameters around that. So that's the biggest question and thought I had on that. It's good that traffic is directly coming from 30. It's not driving through private roads. So those things are great. And I also, my own personal opinion on the driveway, agree with keeping the trees. I don't know if there's any legal way we can allow it to stay at 16 feet, but I would rather keep a tree if we can. So those are a couple of my thoughts to get us started.
Great. I guess in response to the concern about size, is that we did just have the temple passed, and it has to be passed at its maximum capacity, like in terms of instead of limiting regular operation capacity versus a one-off.
Well, I would say, we're responding to the applications. I believe the application is what's showing 40 stalls. And so then we were saying, okay, then the maximum, based on the formula that we would use for parking, the maximum you could have on the site would be 80. So if they're okay with lower threshold, then
Then they
they
just put
could
fewer
propose
parking
lower
spots.
parking
Sure.
stalls.
Okay.
Yes. So that would be, really, I think that's more of a question for the applicant, what
Oh.
exactly, yeah.
I
Did
was
they-
confused with
Did
that
they say anything
also.
in the narrative about how many?
But an event center is an entirely different type of application. This is not an application, nor is it an approval for an event center. That needs to be like,
Okay, yep,
this is wholly different, that's why it's an agribusiness interim use permit. Does not fall under any of the city code for event center.
Yeah, maybe there was some confusion because we used the event center parking formula, but that's just because it's the most similar formula that we have for this.
that's probably where that started going in the mind, yep.
Well, and I'm confused because it doesn't sound like you really want to be hosting large events, 3 times a week.
Is that,
But I can see
I can
the
respond to that.
concern.
If you could, if you wanna just respond to the number of requested parking stalls that just come up to the,
Well, that
Mike,
isn't
please.
what
Thank
we're
you.
looking for. However, this is a business, and just like a farm needs a tractor, we need patrons. And so, we will need to address that. We'll need to find something, if maybe it's well, first off, we're seasonal, so it won't be all the time. And then secondly, it won't, that's not our business model. Our business model is to move the grapes to customers, and this is the most, again, we don't sell grapes because there's no money in selling grapes. We need to produce a product. So, so with that being said, we will need that space to make this economically viable. We are a business, and like any business, we need to make a profit, as much as
Well, and also the event thing, like he said, it's seasonal, but in an agribusiness, if any of you have ever gone to a vineyard, has anybody here gone to a vineyard?
Oh, yeah.
People come, they have a glass of wine, they're, just hanging out, we could have like bags or something. So it's limiting it to like, well, you can only have 4 cars in the parking lot. We're not looking for that, it's an experience. So then we're really changing the whole, we paid all this money to get an agro-tourism permit, where we want people to enjoy the vineyard, to see how, we'll have different events where people will come, we'll show them how to trim grapes, how to cut grapes, how to farm, how to take care of the space, how to, that type of thing. So to me, limiting to, can we limit it to 10 and then, it just, then it's not feasible. It's not a feasible business model, I guess, is what we're saying. We're not looking for a rowdy time. I live literally on the land, so
Can we counter that?
that's not.
no, we can't, I'm sorry, it's not an opportunity for discussion. If you have follow-up questions or comments, those who are not the applicant or on the commission, you are welcome to reach out to staff after the fact. But the comment beforehand is the opportunity, and then now it's just the opportunity for us to make a discussion and a recommendation. It will show up before council again, so members of the public would be able to weigh in at that point in time. Okay, I really thought the things that I had comments regarding this application were not the things that have floated to the top after being here. So I guess the only thing from the staff report is, I know that we're indicating that signs aren't allowed in the rural residential, but I was a little bit confused by that, because there's quite a few properties that are advertising what they are. So I guess that just accepting the amendment makes so much sense to me if it needs to be in there.
And we may want to look at our sign ordinance overall, because I think
Okay.
right now the amendment would be specific to
Correct.
agribusiness, but yes, there are examples of signs
Yes,
that,
and they are family farms,
yeah,
most of
and
them,
we have no
or,
interest in
correct.
taking them down, so I think it's just,
Okay.
it doesn't quite match how we're actually operating,
Correct.
so.
okay, so that's what I was gonna say, is that perhaps at a time when it's slow, that's an opportunity for us to clean it up and make sure that it makes sense. and then I was also going to talk, or ask the city staff why they recommended, or why they seem to be in favor of combining the two parcels. But then it seems like that is what's being done, so then there's no need for me to necessarily understand that. And then the parking space. So a geo-grid with grass, if I am understanding this correctly, and I know that the agro standards were just put in, and originally even just getting gravel for a seasonal operation was something that took getting to the council level for, because they did not leave here at that point. And I remember that because I had a conversation with you, Dean, after the fact. So I'm just wondering if, because to me that is less impervious than a gravel overall. And I know we live on gravel roads, and with the amount of rain this year, how much upkeep that has required, how many times our roads have had to be regraded because of the runoff. So, so I understand as it sits, according to code, it does not fit, and would need to be a gravel parking space, whether that is, yes.
If I may.
Please.
I'm Dean Camp. I'm one of your city council members. I've been out there. I'm hearing everything. I also don't live very far away. I'm down off of Bechtold across from Sherber Dairy Farm, an agribusiness, but it's a family farm. The thing that is confusing me, and I think you guys may or may not remember about the temple, those are 19 parking spots, and there's 75 chairs that would be in the.
No, they were limited for, except for the instances of up to four times a year. They might have larger events.
Okay.
But at that point, most of the time, my understanding is it's extended family members, so they still will probably be coming in the same car. And then any additional cars at that point would be overflow on the grass.
I just, that was.
Yeah.
That was my
But that's a
question
paved parking
was.
lot, because it's all.
That was
year round.
gonna be paved and all kinds of stuff, but
Yep.
I just, that's the only thing that I'm concerned about. And again, the event center, those kind of things, all concerns of mine too, but I've had conversations with, the applicant and such, so I've got stuff too, but you're having a great conversation. Thank you.
I'd like to continue.
Go ahead.
And then Peter can.
Talking about the parking or something
Well,
similar?
the parking too, I mean,
Spaces or material?
just in general, we are trying to make it agricultural and keep a rural community outside the Musa area in Corcoran. And I agree, the only way to do that is bring in agribusinesses, or we're gonna end up with storage, we're gonna end up with construction, outdoor storage, things like this. If we put so many restrictions on agribusinesses, to me, and I'm not sure why, it seems like some of these codes for parking almost feels like we're doing this in anticipation of this becoming suburban space. Why do we need to pave a big parking lot? Why do we even need to put gravel down on a parking lot? I mean, as long as it passes code as far as drainage and things like this, and they may not use that as a large parking lot more than, a few times a year, and the width of the driveway, what, does it drop off after the driveway? I mean, two cars could kind of go on the grass and go around each other. I think we just put so many restrictions on things. It makes it silly. It makes you trying to start a family-owned business, not a big deal, into something that becomes this big, huge parking lot with impervious surfaces on them and wide streets. And the signage, I think, a sign like that out by the driveway on your building, it's very tasteful. It's very nice. I don't think anybody could object to that. It's not a neon, it's not flashing, it's not, we're making things very difficult for what our goals as a city, as what I interpret our goals as a city are.
I had concerns regarding the parking requirements for agribusiness code, the language, when it went to council. So I had a conversation with our councilman Camp, but this is what council has decided. And so within the standards of how it exists, we can either, our options are to make a suggestion, I guess, but it wouldn't fit with the current code. But I hear the concerns and I share them, as well as just as what that does for resale in the future, assuming, so yes, I hear all of that. I guess I'm just not sure, and maybe staff would like to give us direction, but as the code was adopted, it indicates that seasonal agribusiness has to have gravel parking.
Yeah, so that was already the compromise, because originally it was
Correct.
pavement.
Correct, because when it left here, it was pavement,
Yeah, and then when it went to council, the reason why is because the city code as it's written states that the only district where a gravel parking lot would be allowed is the rural commercial. And so that's how that ended up, and then we added language into the agribusiness that said agribusinesses that are seasonal could also have a gravel parking lot if approved by city council. So these are the engineering standards to accommodate for things like drainage, because I do think there are concerns when you are essentially using grass as a parking lot. There can be concerns. I know that what they're proposing might be a workaround. I don't know that engineering would agree that it's a workaround that's going to meet the standards that they have, because we do have high standards, and that's part of the character that we've been able to retain as we've developed. So I would just say that's kind of where we're at. You could propose that they request a variance for it, but I would say this is already the compromise. I don't know the appetite to change that part of the ordinance already, so.
Could I ask for the Plan Commission, if you guys could please define a geogrid? So we're all,
Grass geogrid?
yeah, so we all know what a geogrid is.
So a geogrid, you might have the image.
Yeah, if you get the definition on it.
Basically, it
Well,
reinforces the ground, so you drive over it, so it's supposed to protect the grass,
Google it.
so the health of the grass remains.
Keep it from sinking if it were.
Yeah,
I mean,
becoming
there's
dirt,
there's
essentially.
different
That's-
geogrids you can employ, and I just
Yeah.
would like to have what the city thinks it is.
So, okay. Are you asking for us to clarify what it is that the applicant has requested? Okay, so that's a slightly different question. I thought you were asking for a definition of a geogrid. Can you pull up where that's explained in the site plan?
Yes.
While we do that, I just want to make a few other comments, and that is that I appreciated from the applicant the directional visual images on the landscaping plan. That was helpful. And I also did want to make sure that we took the time to thank the neighbors for coming out and participating in this, bringing your comments and your concerns. It is valuable feedback, and we appreciate and need your perspectives. So I want you to feel, I know that it can be frustrating that it isn't a back and forth, but just for the sake of running smoothly, we can't do that. This is actually a relatively small group compared to some of the feedbacks we've had, and so it's important and we value it, and so I just want to make sure that you know that. And that this decision made by this body today is a recommendation or for either approval or denial that goes forward to council, and it will have another opportunity for written comments or public comments to be brought forth as well. We're just trying to get at some of the problems, and if there's solutions that we can come up with before those make it to another body of individuals. I always like to tell my kids that one of the best things about a democracy is how slow it goes. And I know that that's frustrating, but it is a strength. And so in our frustration tonight, let's all just appreciate that as well. And then do you have a response?
Yeah, so
Awesome,
it
thank
should
you.
be, yeah, this is it up on the screen here. This is the geogrid that is being proposed by the applicant. This was reviewed by our engineering staff and is explained in detail in the engineering report that I'm trying to pull up right now, as to why this isn't an approved use or an approved surface within the city here. There are some concerns with the longevity of using that geogrid consistently at like multiple times a week for several months on end. It can create mud issues, or could tear up the grass, and could create eyesores for the surrounding neighborhood. Could create problems with cars getting out of the lot itself, and public safety. When I met with them on Wednesday, this was also brought up by them, as to their concerns with getting the emergency vehicles through, because they have specific roll-off tests for the fire trucks, the fire engines to get through, and they had some concerns with this surface's ability to withhold that, so.
Also just add geogrids are not necessarily great for clay soils, and we have a lot of clay soils in Corcoran, so that's another reason why we wouldn't necessarily want them allowed across the board.
Okay, so the top three things that I know have been risen to the top, and then I just want to hear if there's anything else that we're missing, is the parking screening to the south and the east. That's recommended by staff. The driveway issue and the exceeding the accessory structure, which is coupled with the whether or not we would allow an after-the-fact variance or stick to our guns on the existing pole barn needing to be moved. So those are the things that that I see we sort of need to present solutions to or make decisions regarding. But is there anything that I've missed or anything else that somebody else wants to bring to the
Can I ask a
table?
question about the existing pole barn? And I know it had it in here, but I can't find it real quickly. Is it placed just a couple feet off, or is it, what is the main issue with the placement? It seems pretty far set back.
It's within the required front setback.
So it's within
Behind
the
the
minimum
house.
setback area from Rush Creek, so the shoreline overlay district requires a 100-foot setback from the creek, whereas the pole barn right now is to be, based on the survey, about 42 feet away from the east bank of the creek.
And it's how far?
42?
42, and it needs to be 100 to meet
So,
code
okay,
requirements.
so it's off by quite a bit.
Do we also want to address any lighting concerns? I know that in the report, it requires 1-foot candle at the property. Line?
10-foot candle at the property
Pardon me?
line.
A tenth of a
Tenth.
10-foot candle.
Because
Is that how the code reads?
Yes.
That was
Or
as,
I thought it read
as
1-foot
recommended by the
candle.
planning commission when we adopted it, so.
That was your recommendation, Commissioner Hargreaves, that we had, so
Okay.
it is one for most uses, but
Okay.
because of the residential and agricultural nature of this, we had said 0.1 was more appropriate
Right.
to limit light pollution.
Okay, good. And what about sound? I presume there's a concern that there might be too much sound, too much, we want to address that?
So I will say we can clarify it in the resolution, but they would be subject to the noise pollution standards in a residential area by state law. So if there were significant noise concerns, then there is a way to enforce that without it necessarily being part of the IUP, but we can certainly reiterate that in the IUP. There is a lot of vegetation, particularly to the west and the north. But if there's other ideas, we can certainly discuss that.
I think the building itself is insulated, I'm sure. It looks like it's gonna be
It will have to meet building code
so
yes,
that's
it will be
insulated from
insulated.
sound.
Well, I'm talking about if people go outside and,
Yeah, walking in the orchard.
well, who knows what happens outside, so.
I want to make a proposal for
I
this
really-
driveway.
I would really
Oh,
like to
pardon.
just be able to ask a
Absolutely.
question to the applicant. You have concerns about the parking lot size, the number of patrons. Can you speak to, if we're talking about 80 here, you said you need to be able to generate revenue to make your business sustainable. I really want to understand what the number of patrons is that you're talking about coming through. I know we've talked about the parking and everybody coming, but can you speak to that for a second? Like what your goals are to be sustainable? Is it 30 people you're anticipating on average? Is it 80?
So we, in our business plan, we have a number that they've determined goes down County Road 30. And so our idea is to capture some of that traffic going down. If you've been to a vineyard, it's not like they're ever really full unless an event is going on. We are just building the space in. Our goal with the type of parking lot we have, there will be gravel underneath that, the geo whatever stuff. And so this is just an ability to get the grass to grow above that, to maintain the rural, the agricultural. we don't want-
I really want to be specific about my question, though. It's not, I don't, gravel, geogrid, I imagine engineering will figure that out. My question is really more geared towards the sound and the concern for the disturbance on total number of people there on a given day. If you're hosting a music event, are you what are you hoping to accomplish there?
We don't know what the number of people are. We're on County Road 30, and honestly, I'm just gonna be totally frank with you guys. Come to our house and listen to County Road 30. If you wanna talk about noise, that is more of a disturbance than we ever planned to have from people hanging out, having a glass of wine, coming and buying a bottle of wine. I mean, that really is the disturbance in the area. With the number of people, I guess I feel like we're really getting hung up on this. If we don't know. I mean, one day we could have 2 people come in. Another day, it could be, we could have, 10 cars there. It's a seasonal thing. We have restricted hours. It's not meant, we're not looking to have a big party, but we are trying to make it educational as well. Vineyards have, quiet spaces, people play games, they play bags, some of them have bocce ball. It's not meant for, yeah.
With the or not the agritourism, but the farm winery license, we will be producing the grapes on our property. We currently have 750 vines. That is roughly 4,000 bottles of wine. That's currently our maximum capacity. How many, if every day we sold 4 bottles, or let's say, that's 1,000 days. If it's 10 bottles of wine, then it's 400 days. We don't know, but we have a limit because we're not going out and buying. We don't have the ability to go out and buy bottles of wine. We will be producing our product on our land.
Right.
When that runs out, this might be moot. We could be open for 2 months and then we're done. So it's based on the amount of product that we can produce. And currently, our projections are 4,000 bottles. That helps any.
Yeah, just trying to kind of close the gap on the concerns of that have been voiced and your intentions relative to your business. So that was the question about.
And the
number
other
of
thing, we
patrons,
picked
so
this
thank-
spot, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
We picked this spot specifically because it's on County Road 30. So we're like, okay, we already have a road there, a very, very busy road. And we're fully insulated. And, I've asked people to come out and check it out. Fully insulated with trees all the way around. We're happy to, we're really, no one will even be able to see the parking lot or the tasting room from the street or anywhere around. So we're happy to make sure it's, we want to maintain that agro. It's just like any other, there's a bunch of farms out there now where you can go, I don't know if you can go and buy stuff on there, but we're just looking to have the ability to be able to sell our product, produce our product there. Like we said, the grapes, grapes don't make any money. I mean, we know if we don't change our model, then I don't know, I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So, recommendation for the driveway. I'm looking at the site plan. I don't know if you'd like to pull it up from your staff report. Dwight, it's page 3, and I'm wondering, is it possible to go, instead of having a straight driveway, which it looks like it is right now, to do 2 little half circles? Do you know what I mean? Would that allow, around the trees, right? So we leave the trees where they are, or no? I'm just trying to think.
County would have, so if you're talking about basically 2 driveways onto the county road?
No,
You're saying
no,
it splits off
from
kind of-
to the parking lot. Yep,
I see,
so
I see.
if the concern is 2-way traffic,
Mhm.
right? So you've got one side that goes, this is our in traffic, this is our out traffic to the driveway. But we're trying to save the trees. It's a thought.
Mhm.
I don't know, it doesn't need to be
Can the emergency vehicle get through the trees? If it can, what's the problem?
Two-way traffic.
two-way traffic.
Yeah.
It's not a long driveway. They can
It's
pull
just
over,
going
they
to
can
go
back
around
up.
people like any other
I mean,
event.
yeah,
We used to drive by.
you do it all the time.
He's a firefighter.
You got
People
1,000
do it all the
people
time.
and that thing, the whole
Yeah.
property's only 400 feet wide.
This trying to make these big commercial driveways and parking lots in our rural area, I think is silly. I'm sorry, it's probably,
Yeah,
No,
so these
I'm
are
just-
recommendations based off public safety and engineering.
Right, that's
so-
what I'm saying, is I
Yeah.
hear you, and I wouldn't necessarily, but because what we have is the recommendation from public safety, I'm trying to see if there's an alternative solution that would get us through, so that this, it makes our recommendation that much stronger for council. That's what I'm trying to do. So that's a thought, if the concern is, and then going with the width or what have you, the remainder part of the driveway, but at that point, just creating that in and out traffic, if that would allow your two-way traffic. Without having to remove the trees, that's a recommendation that I have. I am stuck on the accessory structure. I hear you and I am empathetic. At the same time, we cannot, have finances be the sole reason,
for the
why,
existing pole barn.
right, for the existing pole barn. And I feel like the thing that I keep getting stuck on is that the people who lived there prior to you being there are the ones who have, tied your hands on this. But I do know that moving forward, because other folks in the rural area have put forth applications, and it does require bringing the property into compliance, in order to move forward. So I would, at this point in time, I would stick with what the staff report has said, which is you either take it down or move it, just because I don't think that it would be, I would not put your time and money into the variance.
I have an email from staff saying that if we proposed a new spot for that was fine, and they would not move forward and tell us we needed to move it. And the city did sign off on them building that afterwards. When we purchased the property, I made sure, I'm a realtor, I made sure that all permits were pulled, they were, and the city signed off on it. So now we're being beheld, and we're gonna have to pay for another variance for something that we thought we dotted our i's and crossed our t's on, and the city signed off on in advance. And then when we brought this forward, we were going to add on to that, and I literally have an email where they say, we will not go forward, and if you move the site, you will not go forward and pursue this building. Have an email from the city saying that.
And there's no room to put that building, we'd be sacrificing cropland, basically, because we can't grow crops, or we can't grow vines right next to the creek, so.
So we moved the building based on, the original site
Staff's not
plan,
able
and
to
staff saying,
administratively
you're
approve
fine.
the variance, so I apologize for any miscommunication.
No, we
in the email.
changed what you guys said, because I have it in writing.
I believe you, what I'm saying is no one on staff is able to approve that, so obviously there was definitely a miscommunication. I take full responsibility that it was not worded in a way that reflects how we can operate, but staff is not able to administratively approve a variance.
That's what you guys said, that we wouldn't
We
have a
wouldn't have to
variance,
get a variance
because
if we
it
put it somewhere else.
pre-existed.
Yeah.
We were just gonna leave it as is, we weren't changing anything to
You
it.
said you wouldn't go
guys said if
forward,
you
you
don't
guys
go-
pick a new spot.
At this point in time, it sounds like we are going to have to take what's presented to us in the staff report, and because a variance isn't a part of this application as it isn't anything that we are going to be making a recommendation on tonight, and then that is something that is going to have to be sorted out. Just for you guys to know. So what we will be making our recommendation on is the site plan, the interim use permit, and the zoning ordinance amendment. And at this point in time, with all of those things, unless there are major discussion points moving forward, based on the fact that the applicant has said that they don't have a problem removing some of the unnecessary sheds on the property, they are combining the two parcels, that sounds like we're gonna get within 300 feet of that additional accessory, and I'm okay with the amendment language on both the sign and the accessory structure.
The size of the new
Correct.
building, yes.
Yep, and so at that point in time, unless there's anything else that I have missed in terms of taking notes regarding things that needed to come up, I am prepared to make a motion.
I'd say go ahead.
Okay, so at this point in time, then I would make a motion to approve the site plan, the interim use permit, and the zoning ordinance amendment with a suggestion that in order to save the trees and accommodate public safety's comments, that we see if some sort of a curvature off to either side is reasonable. And I believe that that was the only additional, or the only change. So that's my motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
recommend approval, not approve.
I said recommend approval.
Oh, I just heard approve.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I fully understand that my role
You're good.
is only to make a recommendation for, to council. I am not an elected individual.
Are we also gonna include in there the geogrid?
We cannot because current code states, so this is already the compromise, and we can't make a recommendation that does not fit within code, if I'm correct.
Is
Unless
that code
you're-
or is that just city opinion, city engineer opinion?
No, that's city code, sir.
And so we cannot make a recommendation to do something that's in violation of a city code unless,
Correct.
Correct.
It could be a
With-
variance or a
correct.
zoning ordinance amendment, so I would say at this point, we're not prepared for either
Correct.
of those.
So the interim use permit is to operate an agribusiness and to allow the size of the
does,
building, the new building.
correct, the additional, yes, because the zoning ordinance amendment gives the city the opportunity to change the accessory structure.
Okay.
And not to be like nitpicking, but there is a motion live on the table, so we do need to
I second.
pause. Okay. So all those in favor, it's been seconded, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay.
How about a here? Does it have to be one or the other, present?
You can abstain, but you would have to have a significant reason for abstaining. You're either for or against. Do you have to state your reason for abstaining?
You don't have to state your reason, but it's just practice, yeah, that you typically only abstain if there's a conflict of interest.
No, okay. Here? Yes?
Aye.
Okay, so for clarification, the motion for the recommendation of approval of the vineyard site plan, interim use permit, and zoning ordinance amendment received an aye from all 5 commissioners.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
I did not.
did you say nay?
I'm going to say nay.
Okay. All right, and so then we have the 4 yeas and the 1 nay, and then that means that, and council will receive a synopsis, that's why we have a council member who sits with us, to receive some information on sort of the discussion and the recommendation, both sides. So that takes us to the end of our new business, which brings us to our next item on the agenda, which is the city council report from Councilman Behrenkamp. Is there anything you want to?
It's been a quiet couple of weeks. Not much has changed, so. Quick reminder, we've got the demolition derby, the last event at the Lions Park on Saturday. All the events have gone very, very well. Don't know if anybody's had the opportunity to be there. The park is moving along, the changes in the park. I'm excited for that to get through that first whole phase. We'll have a community room, we'll have a playground, a splash pad, a parking lot, all kinds of stuff, so.
What do they anticipate having done this year before winter?
Hopefully that it gets done as soon as possible, depending on the weather.
So
I can't get an end date on when it's all gonna be done, but
they're trying to get as much
they're
done.
going
before
like
winter.
crazy, yeah. So,
Check it out.
If I may, I have a follow-up question regarding a question that was asked by Commissioner Zachman at the last meeting, and that's in regards to the Quick Trip application.
yeah,
I'm wondering, so there are other commercial businesses in residential areas that have hours of operation till 1 or 2 a.m. respectively.
Right.
What were the findings of fact that, that council had that restricted or limited the hours on the Quick Trip? I know that the Quick Trip app, Quick Trip has bowed out, but I'm curious why there was, or what the findings of fact were that allowed that to be restricted to different hours than the other commercial businesses.
Natalie, do you want me to field that or what? We didn't have findings of fact. It was a recommendation and a motion made by one of the council members. Okay? While we were doing everything, we specifically asked the applicant about limiting hours and if they had other establishments, other Quick Trips with limited hours. They said yes, they did. The motion was made to limit the hours from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. On that, we all agreed to that, and then the applicant, after the fact, decided to not move forward with the application.
And when the recommendation was made by the council member, they didn't indicate why they felt like they needed to make a recommendation?
So I'll just clarify a little bit.
Yep.
So yeah, when the hours discussion came up, they do have other businesses that are open 5 to 11, but it's usually because of a citywide ordinance, or there's like a lot of crime in the area or something like that, so they just decide to close out of safety for their employees. And then the requirement that got added to the permit went a little further and limited, instead of from 5 to 11, to 6 to 10. And so that does, especially that 5 a.m., a lot of construction workers are gonna, they're gonna go to Quick Trip for their breakfast, so they do actually miss a lot of business by not being able to open till 6 a.m., I think. Now granted, once the motion got made to add 6 to 10, I don't think there was a lot of back and forth with the applicant after that point. When it originally,
There was no comments.
yeah, I think at that point, they just kind of accepted that this was going to be the result and made their decision from there.
Sure.
But I think part of the reasoning was just, yeah, it was seen as a way to mitigate the impact of the gas station to the surrounding neighborhood, so that it wasn't a 24-hour operation. So the idea of limiting potential negative side effects of a gas station, not to say that we have seen that so far in Corcoran, but gas stations in other areas, again, usually a lot more urban areas, they do have crime. So I think, and it tends to happen in the middle of the night. So I think there was a concern to try to avoid that altogether by having them close every night.
Okay, so I guess I was just trying to get at, because there isn't a citywide ordinance, trying to get at some consistency, so if a future applicant wanted to come to the city, there was sort of a objective standard that felt known at the beginning of the application process.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
I think that's always ideal, but I think at the same time with conditional use permits, part of it is responding to the application in front of you, and you might have additional stipulations about codes. That's always kind of a risk with permits.
You guys said it really well, the conditional use side of it. If it was just a straight application and everything fell in and they weren't asking for a conditional use and stuff, I don't know if we could do that. We don't limit it now on the current gas stations that are there. They're picking their own hours.
Gas stations by code are all conditional use permits though, are they not? In the mixed.
Correct. I don't, with the way our code is currently written, it's just, I don't know. We'd have to look at the history of the 2 gas stations that we do have in town. I don't know if they have a CUP or if they were before it was required by CUP. I'd have to look at more details before I could speak on that. I do know that Crossroads, they just decide to close early.
It's interesting because I feel like when the Domino's came up, and I was like, that's open till midnight, and it's takeout only. And people might be loitering around the park and I don't know, crime. So it's interesting but that passed till midnight, and then this didn't. I just found it interesting.
So someone had presented, I think I believe a member of the public had presented a report where it was talking about Quick Trip in specific unfortunately there were instances, and they weren't even necessarily in Minnesota, but there were just instances in the middle of the night of the employee being harmed by someone coming in. So I don't think that's necessarily a concern of a takeout pizza place as much as that was a documented concern of the gas station.
Also, I just want to note that on Fridays and Saturdays, Domino's open till 1, not just 12. So that was the only question I had by way of follow-up, so I appreciate it. I just want to make sure that we're always doing our best to be clear about expectations or what have you. And it's disappointing to just in the sense that Mama G's was really relying on, and that had been something that was in the works for a while. So I just wanted to follow up and see if there was anything that we were missing in terms of standards or what have you that we needed to be aware of for future planning issues that came across our desks. So that was all I had. Did anybody else have any additional questions regarding City Council? Okay, and then the planning project update, the only, well, actually mine couples with the commissioner liaison calendar. Did anybody have any questions for staff regarding the planning project update?
No.
And then the commissioner liaison calendar, we know it's still optional. Our question, a couple of us had it, was, is that gonna be something that is accessible in the Granicus or I legislate, because it's currently not in there at all, and someone was asking about swapping, and there's nothing beyond September 11th on paper or in the system, so I didn't know if that was something that was gonna continue. I know it was on the bottom of our reports, and it was recommended because it's optional and not required like it once used to be, but if there was still going to be a regular rotation, is that something we could find somewhere?
Yeah, we can add that.
Okay.
The way that the Granicus system works is when we attach files in the system, when we're uploading it, it auto-generates that agenda page. So I'll just have to add a new attachment that shows that calendar at the end. So it won't be on the agenda page anymore, it'll be towards the back of the report. So that's something that was overlooked with this first run through with Granicus, but
it would actually be towards the end of that commissioner liaison calendar tab. Okay.
Correct, yeah.
All right, does that answer? And so we can decide how we want to do that, maybe just after the fact. Commissioner Zachman was wanting to swap with someone, and so I can take your September 11th if you want to take whenever mine is next. I'm not sure, or we can just pause and wait for an update before, because I know you said you wanted to swap maybe for November.
October, November, just next Thursday.
Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair, I do want to just add one more clarity. So basically, we will be out of town at the end of September as part of the planning conference with the state. And as such, we had intended for the M&J Creekside Vineyard application to go to the September 11th council meeting.
Okay.
We'll have to take a look at that to see if that's still feasible. But I just want people to be paying attention if they want to see this go to council. Just take a look at the agenda packet that gets posted. It could be as early as next week that it goes.
So for the members of the public, that packet will be published and it's available on the website by 4 or 5 p.m. tomorrow.
It should be, yes.
And so if you wanted to, this application may go before council at their next meeting, which is September 11th. So just the recommendation would be to check the city's website for that agenda tomorrow evening or in the days following to just see if it makes it onto the September 11th agenda. Okay, anything else from anyone? If not, then we will adjourn tonight's